right, YouTube, what's going on? It's WahPoh here, back with another video for DOFUS Touch. And today, you guys, we have a couple tier lists that we're going to be putting out. So joining me is my good friend Risen from Risen Rogue Academy. Say what's up, Risen.
It's your boy, Risen.
It's your boy WahPoh and your boy Risen. Let's go. So what's up, man? So we're going to be doing a tier list today. So the first category that we're going to be covering today is going to be the damage tier list. I'm a new player, so just whatever you say, I'm gonna feel like it's the right thing. Because how long have you been playing the game, Risen?
I've been playing for like 14 years.
Watch this and learn.
But DOFUS Touch came out 8 years ago, and I did the math. I've played, I think, let's see, like 1/5 of the last 8 years was on DOFUS Touch. That's how much I've been on this game over the last 8 years. I don't know if that's the exact number, but I put way too many hours into this game. Like, this is a fifth of my life.
That's awesome.
I went hard.
And let me ask you a question. So the new servers just got released like last week, right? So what have you noticed any differences in some of the classes from just starting a brand new character on this new server compared to the last 4 or 5 years that DOFUS Touch has actually been out?
Well, Ankama is amazing at balancing classes. It's just, I mean, they love to make changes. Sometimes, sometimes they mess things up a little bit. It happens sometimes, but like they love to balance the classes, and they actually are very creative about it. And I think they do it very well, to the point where like so many of us would just say there is no redundant classes. Like every class has its place, and they've done that so well at making as many options as possible. Especially, they recently changed the classes that they can only be 3 elements, and they leave 1 element out, and they try to make every element just as valid as well. So that all that extra effort, like everything is valid basically. So
Awesome.
The options are incredible.
Awesome. Yeah, I totally agree. I think that this game has a class for everybody, whether you're a damage dealer and you've always been like the DPS guy in any type of MMO style game that you've played, or maybe this is your first MMO that you've ever played and you're kind of like, well, I don't really know what is my play style. So I feel like there's something for everybody. There's damage dealers, there's healers, there's summoners. So we're going to be doing 3 tier lists that we're going to be dropping. They're not all going to be on one video, so they're going to be 3 separate videos. So the first one that we're going to cover is the damage tier list. So let's just go ahead and get this started. The first character that we have on this list is going to be the Craw. So what do you think about Craw, and where do you think they belong on this list in terms of, are they god, are they awesome, average, meh, or trash?
Well, Craw is meant to do damage. That's what it's there for. And so, like, let's say you have IHOP and Craw. They're both damage classes. That's what they're made for. But Craw, I would say, ranks a little bit higher just because of the longer you stay alive, the more damage you do. And Craw is very good at getting away from danger. The farther you are, I mean, the range is incredible. It has a spell that gives it 6 range and 7 on a crit, I think. I think it's 7 on a crit, I'm not sure. But it's like huge range on this class. And if you can keep the damage going without getting hurt, then that's over time tons of damage. So I would have to put Craw under awesome.
Awesome. Love it. Cool. I agree. I'm the first character that I made in this new server is a Craw, and I'm now level 78. And yeah, I've been grinding like crazy, and I've been playing this character, and I've been unlocking new spells, and definitely have to agree with you. The range is really nice. Once you start learning how to utilize that beacon, you're able to start doing some big damage in an AoE version, because you can actually hit the beacon and start hitting multiple enemies if they can corral the beacon. The one thing I'm still learning on how to do is how to utilize the beacon to like attract enemies towards it. So maybe there's some Craw mains out there that maybe can put some tips in the chat and let me know like what I'm doing wrong. So okay, awesome. So but I have to agree with you. I think they're an awesome as well.
I actually do have a TikTok where I post DOFUS content. And I mean, I show on my TikTok how insane Craw is, not just on damage, but control. The MP steal on agility is insane. But, you know, you might be like, you know, why are you talking about control? It's a damage build. But the thing is, with Craw, for agility, the more MP you steal, the harder it is to get away from your beacons, which means you do more damage the next turn because you don't have to replace the beacons, and it overall just does more damage over time. So that's why Craw is rated as awesome.
I love it, love it. And so not only do I want to talk about just the character itself and what are some highlights about the kit. We're not going to run through all the kits because this isn't you know, like a class guide or anything like that. So, but I do want to talk about what are some of the let's maybe point out two characteristics or two elements on each character that you would suggest them, you know, new players or veteran players coming back to build towards.
That's dope. We should do that. So for
Yeah.
Craw, I would say strength is like insane. I think in general, what I noticed for Dofus is that strength is usually like the heaviest damage for any class, just usually. And the strength on Krog, it has a spell that doesn't require a line of sight, and it also has a spell that prevents it from being moved. And between those two things, I mean, Craw is just like a turret. You know, it
Mhm.
sits in one place and it just nukes everybody from anywhere on the map almost. And I would say strength is insane. And then, you know, I would also say intelligence is usually like the go-to for most people who use Craw. Agi is a little bit niche because you have to focus on the MP reduction and stuff like that. But I would say if you're ready to do some damage, then fire and earth is the way to go.
The next person on this list we have Ecaflip. So Ecaflip, what are your thoughts on Ecaflip?
My thoughts on Eka Flip is that, you know, if all of its damage was like super heavy hitting, then I would say Eka Flip is the way to go. But they did an update recently where they changed the critical hits from some random critical hit mathematical equation to making everything just percentage. So you straight up go from, you know, just max 50, getting everything to 50% critical hits, to now you can put as much critical percentage as you can. So Eka Flip, I would say I would put it under average just because you're really basing on luck a lot of the time when it comes to this class. Because Eka Flip is with the new update revamp that they did to it, you know, when it crits, it has an additional effect that and it just adds so much randomness to it. I really can't put it any higher than that.
Gotcha. Just because of the RNG involved with the class,
Yeah,
correct? Gotcha.
absolutely.
And what two elements would you recommend for this class?
For Eka Flip, I don't know the elements too good for Eka Flip.
Okay.
But what I do know, I think it's the intelligence build, whichever build it is, that it can go through walls, and any spell that you can do really good damage through walls is just the way to go. And then,
Yeah.
and then there's also Recop, which is, I believe, an Omni spell. You can hit in all three elements with poison, and that is like the people who build specifically on Recop, which is poker backwards, just do insane damage over time, and it's awesome. So you really can't go wrong with any elements on the Eka Flip. No worries.
All right. Cool. Okay. So intelligence, and then you also have that if you're building towards recap. So again, if there's any Ecaflip mains in the chat or in the comments section, make sure you guys drop it below and let us know what you think the two best elements for Ecaflip would be. Next on the list, we have Masquerader.
Masquerader is not a damage class. I've played it for a while, for a little bit, and it's just not made for damage. It's a support class. It has damage spells that do like support things. So it's not like, oh, I'm gonna commit my entire AP to do support stuff, because you know, it has use it does have shields that don't do damage, but it has damage spells that are also support spells. Like when you hit it from range, and then everything around, all the allies around the target get shield. So stuff like that, I would say it's more of a support class. I would put it under meh. It's not made for damage.
Under meh. Okay. And do you have do you have two elements that you would recommend for this class?
The elements, I would say, you know what? Actually, now that they changed the passive abilities that come with each element, I would say it used to be agility that was really good, and now it's chance, because you want dodge, because what they did is agility used to be responsible for dodge, but now they kept lock on agility and moved dodge to the water build. So being able to maneuver enemies and place yourself in the right spot so you can put shields on allies and all that kind of stuff. Any sort of support class, I would say you would want to go with chains.
Awesome. Okay. Cool. Next on the list, we have Enu, also known as Enitroph.
Yeah, Enitroph can hit really hard. Don't get me wrong; it can hit really hard, but there's just so much that can hit harder. I can go on our other tier lists about the things that it's useful for, but as far as damage, I would say that goes into the meh category. Enotroph is a troll.
You've been trolled, yes, you've probably been told. Don't reply to this guy, he's just trying to get a rise out of you. Yes, it's true, you respond and that's his cue to start trouble on the double while he strokes his manly stubble. You've been trolled, you should probably just fold when the only winning move is not to play. And yet you keep on trying, mindlessly replying. You've been trolled, have a nice day.
Like hardcore a troll. Like, it can skip people's turns. It can make it so that nobody can move. Like, the stuff that it can do is totally trolly, but as far as damage, I wouldn't put Enutroph very far up the list. And I would say the best element for Enutroph is chance. You know, it's always been its main element,
Chance.
especially because since Enutroph is a MP removal class, having damage spells that also remove MP is kind of like ideal. So I would say water is the way to go.
Gotcha. And would you say this class would be because of what you're saying and how it control some of the enemies? Would you say it's a little bit stronger in PvP, or it's still pretty good at PvM class?
Well, they kind of, as far as PvM, it's not geared towards PvM as much, because this class used to be famous for treasure hunting. So it was if you played Enutroph, way back in the day, way back, you had higher prospecting, which means you got more loot, and you had a chest that would get its own loot, and it was made for treasure hunting. Now its PVM basis has a little bit of area of effect. It might be, you know what? I've seen Enutrophs that are insane in like end game dungeons where people build it just to steal MP and make the boss like not able to move at all. So, but as far as damage, PVM not meant for damage in PVM, but PvP is just it does pretty good, especially since I believe the MP steal spell, the MP removal spell now actually goes through walls.
Okay.
So
cool.
But I would say it's more PvP.
Next on the list, we got Feka.
Feka is a damage. Feka can do damage. Feka, it's totally possible. It puts glyphs on the field, which basically do damage as well as have like annoying effects that just ruin your day. Like it can lower your range. It can steal your MP while you're in the glyph. It even has a glyph for like making it so no one can lock or dodge. No one can lock you. So you have pretty much infinite mobility. It's kind of a troll class as well. Like Ankama is definitely trying to make like some classes like a troll kind of game. And I would say that Feka is not high on this damage list. I would put it under meh. And as far as what element I would say to go with, which I'm thinking more doing one element for each class, I would say the best thing to go with for Feka element-wise is probably, I mean, if we're talking about damage, then strength has always been like the damage-based best element to use for Feka. So I would go with strength for sure. And I've seen people wear like the Count Herberg set, and that's usually like the go-to for the strength Feka.
Gotcha. Cool. Love it. Next on the list we have Enripsa.
Well, with Enripsa, I'll just say it right now, that goes in meh. It can do damage, but it's it's a healer, and I would say more than anything, it's tanky. And Enripsa is the tankiest class in the game. Like it used to be Sacriere many years ago, when putting a point in vitality gave you 2 HP points, and you just try to be as tanky as possible, putting all your points in vitality. But Enripsa is the new old Sacriere. So it's just super tanky, but is it a damage class? No. I have videos on YouTube and TikTok of me soloing like Tengu. I have a Tengu solo video with Enripsa just because it's so tanky and has so much mobility that it can do those kind of dungeons pretty easily. I would say PVM Enripsa is like pretty good at soloing dungeons, but I wouldn't call it a damage class. I would keep it at meh. And then as far as the best element to go with, I'm going to be biased and say agility, because I think it's the most underrated element. I've talked to people, they're like, hey, I don't know if I want to build agility because it only has 3 spells. No, dude, agility can do whatever you need it to. People are worried, about, the lack of versatility. There is plenty of versatility with Agi. The thing is with Agi, the hardest part of Agi is keeping an eye on everyone's states, because you have to make sure that they have the right state so that you can heal them correctly. But besides that, I mean, agility is the most well-rounded element that it has.
Awesome. Okay, cool. And next we got IOP.
IOP goes in awesome, obviously. It's
Awesome.
made for heavy hits. It's and we're talking about PVM right now. So
Correct.
if we were talking about PvP, I mean, like, probably IOP on the top, just because in PvP, IOP is meant to get into the danger and finish things off. Like, if an IOP runs at you, it's intended to just finish you off right there. Because if it doesn't, then it's not going to survive. And so I would say IOP definitely under awesome. It got some new updates that lets it lifesteal, survive a little bit better. And that's what the last revamp was. It's like, why are we making this character that does insane damage, but it's a glass cannon like crazy? So they said, we're gonna put some lifesteal on it, and in PVM it's doing a lot better than it did before.
Love it. Okay.
And the best element for IOP is, of course, strength, because I mean, it gets strength is Wrath. Wrath is the IOP spell that does the most damage. Strength is the way to go for IOP.
Good stuff. Next we got Zeller.
Zeller is a tricky class, but I wouldn't call it a damage class. It can do a lot of damage. I actually have so I run a Zeller. I have 7, I believe, level 200s on Grandapan. and my Zellor is like built for people. If you do just chance on Zellor, it's not going to do a lot. It's going to have some trouble because it's so close range when that it doesn't have like it's so close range. I wouldn't do pure chance on Zellor, but if you manage to get close enough to do it, I have a pet that gives me water damage, and I have trophies that give me water damage. And the way that damage works, as opposed to power, is that damage calculates additional damage for every hit. So on Zellor with chance, it hits so many times between water poisons. There's 2 water poisons, and then there's all this damage that you're doing, and so it calculates like 8 times or something crazy like that. And so it can do damage, but I'm still gonna put it under meh, just because it's not made for damage. There are things that hit a lot harder. And I mean, if you specifically build Zellor to be like insane damage, then maybe you could. But Zellor is basically what Foggernaut has always been, where it's just about like not being a one-trick pony and having like diversity in options. And so there's so many options with Zellor. It's meant to be a well-rounded character, not specifically a damage character.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. The next up we have Rogue, and I think Rogue might be our first god tier, correct?
Rogue is god tier. Rogue is definitely god tier. It does the heaviest damage. So, story about me: I got married in DOFUS years ago. I got married in DOFUS, and after the wedding, we had a damage competition as an after party, and we knew who was gonna win. It was gonna be the intelligence rogue, because back then the what do you call it, the scarecrows, whatever they're called, that you hit in the dojo.
Mm-hmm.
We knew he was going to win. It only had 10,000 HP, and we couldn't even calculate his HP because it went over the amount of HP that the scarecrow had.
Wow.
So it's the heaviest hitting character in the game. The thing with Rogue is it's kind of a one-trick pony. It's just doing insane damage with extra steps, but just a million steps, and you have to know every situation, but you're doing it all just to do damage. But that's what this list is. This tier list we're doing right now is about damage. Rogue is god tier.
Awesome. And then one thing we forgot to, I think, mention, I'm not sure if you brought that up, but the element for Zellor, what would we recommend?
Zellor, I'm going to say go water fire.
Water fire.
Yeah, if you go just fire, maybe, but water fire is the best. If you're going water, add fire. If you're going fire, add water, because you want those two together for sure.
Okay.
One
perfect.
for close range, one for far range, and you can get some heals in there as well, and that's just way better.
Perfect. And then for Rogue, we got intelligence on her.
Rogue. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a damage tier list. We're going intelligence. Yeah, that's the heaviest damage in the game is intelligence rogue.
Perfect. Okay, awesome. Yeah. The one thing I've noticed about Rogue is I played SRAM for about a year, and it seemed like, well, I think SRAMs and Rogue, aren't they related in some kind of way,
Yeah,
or don't they derive from the same?
Yeah, I think so. The Rogue worships Ugor, and the Srams worship Sram, but Ugor is like an alter ego of Sram, I think.
I see. Okay.
But they pretty much worship the same god. They're in the same tree of.
I'd say it's safe to say they're probably cousins.
Yeah, they're pretty much cousins. I would definitely say that.
Gotcha. Okay, so we got intelligence on Rogue. Sounds good. But yeah, like you said, it takes a while to get to be able to pump out that damage with Rogue. But once you master it, it becomes very, very rewarding.
For sure.
Okay, and then next we got Foggernaut.
Foggernaut is Foggernaut is the well-rounded class. It's the class for doing a million different things mediocrely. Yeah, maybe more than mediocre, like above average. It does above average damage. Well, not, no. You know what? One second. Now I'm lost in thought. I would say Fogger would be considered meh.
Okay.
Oh, you know what? I am lost on this one. I'm gonna say average actually. I plan to put it in meh, but I'm gonna say average just because depending on how you build your Fogger, you can, if you do really high damage and like omni power, then you can hit with the multi-element spells and then smash with the damage turret. Because the way that damage turret works is that I believe it uses your strongest element against their weakest resistance. And so that is kind of like an insane damage kind of thing. And I believe that Foggernut is like the PVM, like, you know what? God tier. Foggernut is God tier. I'm
What?
sorry. This was not a thing.
We went from
And I'll tell
meh
you why.
to average to God.
God tier. And I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
The reason that Foggernut is God tier is because we're talking about PVM here. And pretty much every dungeon mechanic, it can circumvent. It can circumvent because, like, for example, you go to the Earth Pandala area and you fight the enemies there. When they make themselves vulnerable, you can still hit them because you hit with a multi-element move, and then it hits Earth, which removes the invulnerability, and then you hit with the rest of your damage, and you remove the invulnerability, and then you have. Let's see, what's the next one? Obzi. You're fighting Obzi and Frigost. It's one of the end game dungeons, and Foggernut is like one of the only classes that can push itself into the boss and make it vulnerable by yourself. So it's pretty much the only class that can solo Obzi. And then you have Penguin, which is also a Frigost boss. Immune to damage until it's healed, until an ally is healed next to it. Foggernut can solo that too because it summons a healing turret that heals you and then makes the boss vulnerable. So if we're talking about PVM,
Wow.
I'm gonna say Foggernut is God tier because it can just circumvent like everything and do damage way sooner. So that's what I'm gonna say.
That's quite the progression for the class.
Did you see that?
Oh yeah, that was great. You're like, no, you know what? F that. This is going in God tier.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, that was great. What a rant.
Element, I would say best element with Fogger is probably go try element. Hit all the elements because if you go power and damage, then you can use the I think it's called the ambush as the multi-element spell, and just it hits super hard with enough power and damage. And then, of course, your turret is just going to wipe it off the face of the earth. So,
awesome.
That's definitely where I would go with that.
So you would suggest this is one of the few classes where you would suggest to just lean more into power and spread out those characteristics evenly.
Yeah, that's where I would go with that.
Okay,
sure.
Awesome. Okay, and then next up we got Sedita.
Sedita is going to be meh. It's a summoner by nature. It steals MP. It heals a little bit. I feel like Sedita is like it does everything mediocrely. But it does everything mediocrely, but it does a lot of different things. It's the jack of all trades. It can heal, it can steal MP, it can summon dolls that there's a doll that heals, there's a doll that steals AP, there's a doll that steals MP, there's a doll that blocks the way and locks you. So I would say Sedita, since this is a damage chart, it goes under meh, but it just has a lot of utility. I would just put an under meh in this case.
Okay, sounds good. And then are we thinking strength for this class if we're trying to
if
we're talking about damage?
If we're talking about damage, then strength is the way to go.
Because of Bramble and Manifold Bramble, correct?
For sure.
Okay, and then next up we got Sacrier.
Sacrier. Sacrier. I would put that in average. Sacrier is average because it's got ramping up damage. With the newest update, they said, you know what? We don't want you putting all your points in vitality anymore. We want you to be able to make more choices and have more fun designing it the way you want it. And so they removed the 2 vitality or 2 HP per 1 vitality. Okay. So Sacrier, what it's famous for is it takes damage, and when it takes damage, it gains damage. It gains power, and it gets stronger the more it's hit.
Gotcha.
With the most recent update, it gives itself 150% power when it puts on the state that boosts its attack, but it's a ramping class, and so I would put it under average just because it takes so long for it to do its maximum damage.
Love it. Cool.
And as far as the element, I mean, we're talking about a damage chart. I mean, it's strength. I mean, strength is the damage element for the most part. So I would say that's the way to go.
Next we got Osamoda.
Osamoda. I would put that as average. Because it's got spells that hit really hard. It's got summons that hit really hard. With the new update on Osa, you don't need 6 summons anymore. I mean, obviously it's a summoner, it's ideal, but now you can boost 1 summon at the beginning of the fight. Pretty much, you summon it and then you give it high energy shot, I believe it's called, and then it gets stronger over time. So now I would say that it probably does pretty well with damage because you don't have to kill all your summons to make 1 summon the strongest, but it's still not necessarily a damage class. It's more of a support, sort of trolly disruptor kind of class. I'd love to put it under awesome just because all of its summons are damage summons instead of the Sedita where it's support summons, but it doesn't get up that high. I mean, there are people who do get up that high. Yeah. I know one girl who just, does insane damage for no reason on that class. But for the most part, I would say I would put it under average. And I would say the element to go with would be intelligence. Intelligence is the go-to element for damage on PVM because it powers up the dragon, and the dragon is where the damage comes from.
Awesome. Yeah, one thing I will say with the Osa, from what I've seen, is once you get that boar spell and you're able to summon the boar, that boar does not mess around. He could hit enemies and he could push enemies into corners, and then once you get an enemy pinned down into a corner and you start getting that pushback damage, I've seen boars just completely wreck in dungeons. It's so strong. So
what I like about pushback damage is that it's kind of not that hard to get a decent amount of pushback damage early game.
Right.
So if you are playing agility Osa and you get you wear some set that just randomly has pushback damage on it, you can get over 200 damage from the pushback at super early. Just because you put a couple pushback trophies on it, you maybe mage a little bit with the pushback set, or maybe exo a little bit, and it does pretty good pushback damage early game.
Yeah.
And then late game even crazier. So
I just like how oppressive the boar can be. Okay, so intelligence for Osa. Next we got Pandawa. I just call it Panda.
Pandawa, I'm gonna put it in awesome, and that's because this is a PVM list, and on a PVM list, just like I put Fogger not under a god tier, with PVM, it's how easily can you dish out the damage. It's not all about numbers. It's can you do it every turn? Can you hit multiple enemies every turn? Can you make the enemy vulnerable really quickly and then do damage? There's a PVM damage list. I would put Panda under awesome because it can move, and it's insane. It can pick up anything and throw it anywhere, which means that it has complete mobility to make its area of effect spells insane. So if you if you any other class, you point and click, you do damage to one class. But Panda can put any enemy anywhere else on nearby on the map. And with that, you automatically get free access to a beneficial area of effect spell. So if you can hit area of effect every turn, I'm putting Panda under awesome.
I have a question about the pickup spell because I just started my second character, my second account, and I went with
Okay.
Panda. Can the pickup be resisted?
So I believe rooted state prevents pickup.
Oh,
Then
okay,
there's unmovable state that prevents pickup.
gotcha.
Heavy state, I've seen things in heavy state get picked up, but I'm not sure. I think I saw that. And then let's see what else. Gravity state, I think you can definitely pick up something in gravity state.
Gotcha. Okay, that was, and then also, can you throw enemies like over, like let's say, because I know it's
Yes.
on the line of sight. Can you throw them over like an ally or an enemy into an empty
You can
cell?
throw them. Yeah, you can throw them. I believe over anything pretty much. So I mean, so in PvP, it's crazy because if you're doing PvP with a panda, the panda literally just runs to the enemy team, picks up like their healer or whoever's the most valuable part of the team, and just throws them at their allies to like remove them from the rest of the group and finish them off really quick. So that's crazy in PvP, but you can ultimately do the same thing in PvM. And also it's worth noting that that Panda is one of those classes that because it has such good positioning, it can make things vulnerable really easily. So if you have like if you're fighting, I believe Tengu, you can make vulnerable with any sort of motion what is it called? Positioning spell. So Panda is one of those insane classes that can like make enemies vulnerable really easily. So that's why it's in the awesome tier damage PVM tier list.
Awesome. And then are we recommending strength for this class as well?
Yeah. Let's see. You know what? I'm just gonna say, you know what? No. I'm gonna say water. Water is the best. And the reason for that is because
For PVM damage?
for PVM, yes, for PVM,
Okay.
because you know what? You're right, PVM. I would still say for PVM, just because it can hit behind walls with when it uses, I think it's called melancholy,
Mhm.
where it makes a wave and then it crashes at the target and then it spreads out. So you can hit things behind walls, which is huge, and the damage is pretty insane too.
So it's an
So
AoE over the wall damage spell.
well, not over the wall. It goes to the side of the wall and then it crashes perpendicularly.
I see.
And
Gotcha.
so you can basically hit behind things and the damage is pretty good. And then in PvP it's even worse because like the main thing with PvP when you're doing colo, you have to hide behind something. You know, you can if you're running in for damage, then then it's very risky, but you always have to hide behind something. In PvP it's crazy to hit behind a wall. But in PvM, I mean, the nice thing to have is behind things. So that's putting it under the awesome tier.
Love it. Love it. Cool. And then last but not least, we have SRAM. Another god tier character, or is this trash?
SRAM. It's going in trash, man. SRAM is just no, it's god tier, bro. SRAM is god tier, bro. Because it's I mean it's basically like Rogue, except the traps can't be destroyed unless they're stepped on. And especially they just buffed SRAM that it can do its pull trap twice in a turn. And so I mean that's what basically, and it also got a new spell that basically pulls and pushes like one cell in any direction. So between all those things, you can make a giant trap chain. I have a TikTok on TikTok called Juliana's Trap Chain. Because Juliana is this character on Grandapan who was like crazy at making chains out of traps. And I have a video of it and it's so cool to watch. And
We'll link it. We'll link
because
it.
of the fact that you can just yeah, that would be awesome. Because of the fact that you can just lay out traps like infinitely, there's no limit on them. You can pretty much one hit kill anything as long as you can stay away from it. They just nerfed invisibility, which is a problem because you can't just hide from bosses forever. I remember back when invisibility was broken, you could solo pretty much any boss. Now it's a little bit harder to stay safe in that way. But even still, I mean, the trap chains are insane. So I would say damage for PVM, SRAM is number one. And as far as element, if you want to get that kind of damage, you got to go strength int. You got to go fire earth
Fire
because
Earth.
you're going to have fire spells that are traps that pull the opponent and push the opponent into the earth spell damage traps. And so you just do pretty much an infinite link of damage, and it's just awesome.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Awesome. Okay, well, that's our
I also
list.
wanna say-
Oh, go ahead.
Last thing I want to say is you may notice there's nothing in the trash tier. And the main reason for that is because DOFUS is a balanced game, man. Like they should be studied for real. Like the way that they can balance classes to provide for every need, you know, in a team. I mean, it's just incredible. And so there is no trash class on. I believe on any of our tier lists, there's not going to be any trash classes just because the game is balanced and every class can do decent damage if it knows what it's doing. So that's why there's nothing in the trash tier.
Awesome. Awesome. Cool. Well, there you guys have it. That's our damage tier list. I know it's a bit of a long one, but I hope you guys enjoyed it and you got some value from it. The next two tier lists that we're going to be dropping are going to be healer support and a summoner's healer. So keep an eye out for those. And any last words, Risen?
Last words. Be a noob. It's the best part of the game. Take your time. I'm gonna say that at the end of every video. I'm gonna be a noob.
Be a noob.
And
Heck yeah.
I have a video that I said the final tip. Don't watch this video. And I'm gonna say that at the end of this video, so they already watch it and then find out, so we get the view count. But my final tip is don't watch these videos because explore. No, these videos are great. You'll definitely gain something from it, but be a noob. It's the best part of the game.
I totally agree. All right, guys. Well, I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you guys go drop a like on this video. I'm going to be posting Risen's YouTube channel in the description, as well as that SRAM trap chain video, which sounds really fun. I'll be posting both of those in the description below. I also do live stream on Twitch. That's going to be in the description below as well. And we're going to be posting Risen's YouTube channel as well if you guys want to go and check him out. So thank you guys all for watching. And leave a comment below if you guys disagree or agree or don't disagree with our list and any things you guys want to add on. But anyway, thanks for watching and keep on gaming.
It's your boy Risen signing out.